Hello, everyone. We are so happy you're joining us for today's Lunch and Learn webinar. This is the fourth webinar in an 8-part series, and today we'll be focusing on Lutheran Community Services Northwest refugee resettlement work in Vancouver. My name is Jenica, and I will be hosting today's webinar. We have a great group with us today to share about their work with refugees in Vancouver. First, we'll hear from Nikki, our volunteer coordinator, then from Nazifa, the case manager, and finally from Steve, who's been involved with our refugee resettlement work as a community volunteer. Behind the scenes, we have Jamie, Carrie, and Matt, all from our shared services team who are running tech, and they will be helping to answer questions. The goal of today's presentation is to update all of you on what's happening right now with refugees in our community. And so we hope you'll come away with a better understanding of the challenges and successes we're experiencing, as well as the ways that you can be involved if you're interested in supporting our work. And I know that many of you already do. Refugees are in the news a lot right now. And as many of you know, this is work that we've been doing at LCS&W for decades. We are closely watching what's happening now in Ukraine and the evolving situation with Ukrainian refugees, as well as other areas of conflict around the world. We're here to offer programs for any and all refugees that come to us, whether they're from Afghanistan or Ukraine or any other country. Our staff is working hard to provide all the support that our clients need. And right now, that's primarily our new Afghan neighbors. We are also beginning to see Ukrainians who have fled the war in their country coming to Vancouver by crossing the Mexican border. So no matter who it is that's fleeing violence and persecution, we are here to welcome and serve. And we are so thankful that you all help make that possible. So a couple of quick logistics before we start. We have the Q&A function up and running, and you can find that in the bar at the bottom of your screen. So if you think of a question during the presentation, feel free to put them into the question and answer box. And then at the end, we'll answer as many of those questions as we can. There's also the chat feature, which you can use as well, but the best way to get your questions answered is to go ahead and use the Q&A. Okay, I am excited to introduce you to our first panelist. Nikki, as I said, is the volunteer coordinator in our Vancouver team, and she's going to give an update on how we are doing with resettling refugees in our community. Nikki.
Thank you, Jenica. Thanks for the introduction. And I'm so grateful to be here with you all. I'm grateful that you took time out of your day to be here and learn about our program and learn about the refugee experience in Vancouver. I wanted to start by introducing you to our team. I wish I had a better staff picture of our entire refugee resettlement staff in Vancouver. This is our APA team. So this is the Afghan Placement and Assistance Program team that formed really in the midst of this crisis. Just going across the screen is Khalid Farzgar, who is our newest team member. He is joining us to do some really neat work with community engagement and is a new arrival himself. And we're really excited to have him as part of the team, building our services, building the partnerships with community in a way that is really going to be relevant and beneficial to our new Afghan community. Next to him is Nazifa, who's one of our case managers, and you'll hear from her in a little bit. Also Miriam and Shirsha, our case managers that have been with us since our first Afghan arrivals started coming. And then Ahmed, next to Shirsha, is our housing specialist and a lead case manager. And then I have been fortunate enough to be in the role of coordinating volunteers and coordinating a community response um, for the past few months. And that's the part I'd like to talk to you about. Vancouver might be a difficult place for Afghan refugees to resettle. Excuse me. We don't have a large Afghan community here. We don't have Afghan grocery stores. We have a small number of community members that speak Dari and Pashto. Many of the community support structures that have assisted refugees here in Vancouver were developed to support refugees from former Soviet Union countries, which is who we have here historically. And we're of course also feeling the effects of COVID and the havoc that has wreaked on our systems on the national, state level, and locally. We used to have co-located offices with a lot of our systems partners like DSHS and Partners in Careers and Clark College. So connecting our refugee clients to those services was much easier than it has been kind of in the era of COVID, when everybody has gone to remote work or phone systems for DSHS that are statewide rather than working with our local representatives. We have just often felt like we were feeling our way through a dark tunnel, trying to figure out how these systems are supposed to work, how we can best connect our clients to those systems. It's been a really steep and slow learning curve that we are still working out. And so that has been probably our largest challenge, is figuring out how to connect all of our new arrivals with the benefits and the services that will really help their resettlement go smoothly. But thankfully, and this is the part I really wanted to share with you all, is that when it became apparent that we were going to welcome refugees from Afghanistan here in Vancouver, our office just started to receive an almost overwhelming response from the community, phone calls and emails flooding in with a desire to help. And that has been the game changer for the Afghans who have resettled here in Vancouver. And it has been a joy and an honor to be able to cultivate and support that community partnership to help individuals, faith communities, and other community groups provide support and friendship to our new neighbors, hopefully in a way that best utilizes their particular resources, skills, and interests to meet the needs that arise from the refugee community. You can forward to the next slide if you don't mind. I think I've said that it's been such a great honor for me to engage in this work. It's the first time I have worked with a refugee population, and there is something unique about it. There's nothing like this work. It is extremely gratifying to meet the needs of people who have experienced such upheaval and have found themselves just all of a sudden in a foreign land. But also what it has meant to community volunteers. And I chose this picture because it was such a unique moment in time. It was my moment that I wanted to share with you, but it's indicative of so many moments that our community volunteers have had, of these just momentous life experiences that we are sharing with people who we never thought we would, maybe never thought we would interact with. There, when you engage with supporting someone in this situation, maybe somebody who is separated from their family, from their homeland, from everything familiar, if you can engage with this work with a soft and open heart, you end up becoming family. So this picture is a moment when I was able to meet for the first time and welcome into the world this little one that was born here in Vancouver. Her parents had, when they arrived, they were they were welcomed into families ADU. They were given temporary housing in a beautiful spot, and a good neighbor team surrounded them. Their little nuclear family was part of a larger extended family that was originally separated and sent all over the country when they arrived in Afghanistan. We've since been able to reunite the entire family. It's 15 family members that have been able to reunite here in Vancouver and actually live even in the same apartment complex. We were able to find them housing together. And that was amazing work by Ahmed, our housing specialist. But before the rest of their family arrived, they had, this little nuclear family had a good neighbor team that provided them with temporary housing. And then when this apartment became available for them, helped them to furnish the apartment. They helped them go through all of their medical appointments and navigate the medical systems. One of their members of their good neighbor team was actually in the room when this little one was born. It was an amazing experience, and it was just experiences that good neighbor team never anticipated having in their life, and it has been an amazing experience for them. You can go to the next slide, please. Another example of a good neighbor team in our community, and also some of the other ways that the community has engaged. So this is a picture of a welcome home party that was thrown for another one of our clients, a family that a good neighbor team was able to provide housing for, a home in Ridgefield that needed some repair work before it could be livable. But the owner of the home really wanted to offer it to a refugee family. And we were able to kind of make a match that we felt like would be appropriate and would be the best match for this situation. This good neighbor team, well, so the house itself had some repairs that needed to be done. So Crossroads Church, that is a church that has been so supportive to all of our efforts, ended up assembling a team of contractors that were part of their membership. They went and over the course of a month, repaired the home, did all sorts of work around the land and cleaned everything up, got it ready so that it was this amazing housing opportunity for a small family. And then they hosted this welcome home party on the day after they moved in, and were able to really rally a lot of support around that family that is paying off. Now they have been engaged in really amazing efforts, providing amazing support to this family. But just a lovely event and a really neat story of different components of our community kind of coming together to create the support that this family needed. You can go on to the next slide, please. So we have a lot of different ways that the community has been involved and can continue to engage with this work. This is another opportunity. Almost every weekend or close to it, we have been moving folks into apartments or homes, and we have teams of people who show up almost every Saturday to help us move furniture that's been donated. Load trucks, bring it to a home or an apartment, unload, bring over the restart kits that so many people have donated in our community to set up a home so that it has basic supplies, everything that somebody would need just to get started. They're setting up internet and things like that to make sure that everybody is all set up and ready to move into their new place. So this was one of the Saturday apartment setups that we did, or house setups in this case. But there are so many ways that community members engage with us, whether it's providing transportation to their appointments, medical appointments, getting them connected with their benefits at DSHS, and taking them to enroll in Clark College for their English classes. All of these things just require support, transportation, coordination, and our community members have stepped up unbelievably to make that happen. And we're just so grateful for that. There are so many ways to get involved, no matter what your commitment level is, even, if it's a one-time thing on a Saturday to move an apartment, or if it's an airport welcome, as we are getting ready to welcome some new arrivals now in the next month. If it is tutoring ESL, or doing some English classes, if there's collecting donated furniture. Some of our community members have been going to consignment shops and looking on OfferUp sites and making sure that it's nice furniture that we can accept, that we can pass on. So community church groups have sponsored, and mosques have sponsored events for us to gather all of our clients together to do cultural orientations or staff meetings, or so we have been so fortunate that Vancouver and Clark County is really such a generous community. It's been so welcoming, and there are ways to engage with this work that, like I said, is like no other. No matter if it's a group as a church, if it's a neighborhood that has gathered together, no matter what your skill set is, no matter what time commitment you can offer, we can find a way to plug you in. And it's really amazing work, and it's a really amazing opportunity. So I'm going to pass it on to back to Jenica, and happy to answer your questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Nikki, for sharing all that information and your experiences. You have done so much over the past few months. And as you said, we know that resettlement is only truly successful when the community is supportive. And we have been so grateful and just overwhelmed by Vancouver's response to the Afghan crisis. And it was a really heavy lift for our agency, going from just really a trickle of arrivals from former Soviet Union countries to 150 Afghans over a couple of months. And I know Vancouver is expecting another 100 or so before July. So we're just really so grateful for all the support we've received from the volunteers and community members in Vancouver. Next, I'm going to introduce Nazifa, who, as I said, is a case manager. And she is going to share about her work with her clients.
Thank you, Danica. Thank you for having me here to share my story. Hello, everyone. I came to US when I was, a little bit about me, I like to share when I was 10 years old. It was basically 1985. I didn't know, I didn't spoke English, or I didn't even say, I didn't know even say good morning or hi or hello. So luckily my brother lived here, and he got us here through Refugee during that time. And we had to migrate because of the, invasion of Russian war there and Afghanistan. So we had to leave very quickly, and otherwise we'll be assassinated. So we came here, and on Thanksgiving Day, which was every year we celebrate Thanksgiving due to that time we came that day, and at nighttime. And so it was very hard for me to, when I went to school. I went to middle school, high school, and college here. But at first it was a struggle. It was very struggle. We didn't spoke the language. We didn't have no, thankfully I had my brother, but he was like working a job and going school, and we, so we had to grow on our own basically. And the programs that right now Lutheran Community Service provides, we didn't have that. So I share that my story to a lot of Afghan community here, and tell them that they're very fortunate and very lucky to have such amazing program that assists them with so many programs, and help them with housing, help them with, all the necessity things that a person needs, and volunteers. And thank you for Nikki. I mean, there's good her neighbors and all of these great volunteers that is helping us to facilitate all the Afghans to their homes, get their furniture, get the clothing, and to their appointments. Without them, I don't think so we could, we would be like overwhelmed, because I understood that we have so many families, and there's so much need of so many services that they know, and they are so foreign to, because why I came to Lutheran Community Service, because I didn't know this program exists, but when I learned, and I wanted to be part of it because I'm passionate, and because I was in the same shoes as they were. But coming in this country, not knowing how to speak English, not, it's a foreign land, and not understanding how to maneuver, and how to create a kind of a community, a friendship, and especially when you're young, you don't know how to make friends, and the culture shock, basically, of how American culture is, and how our culture is so different. And but it's nice, because at least I tell them that you are safe here, and we're away from that trauma, that war that been on us for many centuries. I feel like it's been a centuries, it's been so many years, but you feel like so overwhelmed when you come here. But you know my position here being a case manager is to translate, to help, and to show them to get access to all the programs, and by all the help of volunteers. And there is a lot of challenges as far as, we have the biggest challenge of the housing. All of us know that, they will not accept some of the when I went with Ahmed and shadowed Ahmed when he was the house special. I mean, he is the house specialist, and all these management company will not accept people because you don't make 3 times the amount. You don't have a history. So we have to work with a lot of housing community that could assist us, that could help us to let them, to be there. And that's a very difficult, challenging position that our colleague has. But thankfully, I just had a good connection. Just happened last week. I went to the apartment unit and we talked, and I brought the family, and because I speak Arabic as well, so I had a Arab refugee that came from Egypt. They're from Syrian families, and she was so kind, and which is the manager. She understood where we were coming from, and she, we explained the situation, and she said, okay, we will work with you guys. So they gave us 2-bedroom apartment, which wasn't a special. Not only the application fees was waived, they had, the rent was lowered. It used to be 1,800 or 2,000, but it went to 1,600, which is very affordable for them. And they were like in tears. They were so happy, and because they're 5 people and 2-bedroom, but still they're very happy that they got an apartment. They could start their life, because their daughters in a high school age, and they could start their schooling and their college and their English courses. So all of this, and not only one family, there's like 66 families that is we settled, but they all need of the places to stay, and we will get more families, but that's the only challenging. But there's always a lot of happy stories. We don't have time to share, but there's so many happy stories, and I come across, and it's some to see that, it's very joyful, because for me, I mean, I was fortunate because my brother had a home and we stayed with him and everything, but we don't have that in here. So I'm glad that there's some volunteers, and there are some groups that are helping and funding this program, which we need all the funding as we can to help all the refugees. Especially right now, we will get Ukrainian, but mostly the Afghans, but we will get a lot of refugees. So if we still have this program, that would be very, very helpful. Thank you so much. And if you guys have any question, I'm open for questions.
Thank you, Nazifa. It's always so inspiring to hear from people like you who have lived through the experience of being a refugee and then decided to work in a capacity where you're helping others who are in that situation. So we're so fortunate to have you on the team, and thank you for highlighting some specifics about what's challenging with housing all of the refugees that have been coming. So thank you so much for sharing. So our last but not least panelist is Steve, who is involved in our agency as a volunteer. Welcome, Steve.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, thanks for allowing me to contribute. So just share some things about my role, how I got started, what I've been doing, some of the challenges I've had, some of the successes from those, and then what we've learned, and then looking forward on things that I recognize where, from my involvement or just from a vision standpoint, where we could have get some help. But first of all, with my role, we could go to the next slide. I'm just a volunteer with Lutheran Community Services Northwest. I saw the events happening in Afghanistan in August, had time on my hands, had a couple bedrooms in our house. And my wife and I, talked about what we might be able to do to help us. We knew these people were coming. And then I did a web search and understood that Lutheran Community Services Northwest is the resettlement agency that the State Department uses here in Clark College. Soon thereafter, I was at church, and there was this comment made about the refugees coming, and attended a meeting and learned a little more. And that was with a group that has been involved in refugee resettlement for many years. And from that standpoint, soon thereafter, we started getting calls for people donating furniture. So I was involved with picking up furniture as people were donating furniture. And then soon thereafter, again in November, the Afghan refugees were arriving at the airport. And I tried to go to that as many times as I could. Just thinking back on an experience I had as a professional in a corporation, international corporation, where I was a manager and was asked to train managers that came from other countries. And one situation occurred where I showed up at the airport at the gate, and nobody was there. And I knew this guy was en route. So, I stumbled around in the airport and finally found somebody that could have been the guy that was coming to train with me. And just thinking how terrible he must feel to not feel welcome, to not understand what's going on, to be scared to death. And I did not want anybody coming here to our community and have that same kind of experience. So, I felt important as much as I could to go to the airport. And, a month or 6 weeks later, I'll see somebody that I saw at the airport, and they will be recognize me and say, yes, thanks for showing up at the airport when I arrived. So I think there's some value in that. And then from that, I just get involved with whatever would come next. It was exposed to the idea of a good neighbor team, being part of a good neighbor team. And initially that involved things such as social events, providing food for people, and then exposed to the appointments for the Department of Social and Health Services, or referrals there then to Partners in Careers and to Clark English as second language. And then the next thing was that there were opportunities for people to get into permanent housing. So then it would help the people move into permanent housing, and whatever's associated with that. In some cases, there were these restart kits that really helped, but sometimes there were things missing. So, like, for example, curtains. I purchased a lot of curtains as people were moving into houses and needed a little bit of privacy. And then the next thing, recognizing that the people are in a location now where they are in a geography where they could start looking for work. So I had 5 guys over at my house one night, and we went through a process of trying to help them to identify where companies are in their geography that is easy to get to from their home, whether it's walking or riding a bike initially, identify the companies that are in that area. Then we looked at the Google map that's how we found those companies. And then we looked at Indeed to see if they were hiring people. Many of them were. And then that enabled us to get a resume built, posted on Indeed, and then apply to those jobs to begin their job search. We sent out those applications, and I sent them off. We took them home, and they were, taught them how to do all that, and felt that my engagement was going to be a lot less after providing that service. But what I realized is is even though that they can speak English, there's some grammar challenges. There's a whole idea about helping define identity of the people that are trying to hire people, and then recognizing that there's interview questions and all those kind of things. So really it got to be a lot more than that. And then with continued needs, it's not only that with the job search, but there's continued things that people need help with, and that is to get the internet set up, phones, going to grocery store, getting bank accounts set up, understanding the C-Tran bus system, and then with the job search, including interview training, writing cover letters, thank you letters, work ethic training, recognizing that when I go to pick somebody up at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm there to pick them up and they're still sleeping, that they need to understand that part of going to work is to be dependable and be on time, that kind of thing just can't happen. If you're expected to be at a certain place at a certain time, you need to be accountable for that. So, discussions about that. Dealt with somebody that had COVID positive event and, work through that. People getting their check, recognizing that it's not, you don't get the gross pay, you get the net pay. The net pay has taxes taken out of it. You also need to make sure you have a budget to make sure you are going to pay for your home, you're going to pay for your food, and need to manage your money that way. People were getting mail. In some cases, they were not getting mail. So I've been to the mailbox, to the post office a couple of times to understand what the challenges were people not getting mail. And then they are getting mail is to help decipher it. What is this stuff that's showing up? On the same line, they're getting text or phone messages that are spam, and then, to help understand what spam is. Had a situation where one guy had somebody had stolen from him. So, that was a couple of full days with dealing with police and writing reports to try to help him get his documents back and make, anyway, the whole process of dealing with something like that. I helped a few guys get jobs at a place of work, and none of them spoke English, and recognized that in a type of work in which this was, that it was a safety concern, that you had people working that you were not able to train for a safety process. So I was able to help that company and get some help from Afghan Refugee to create workplace safety signs. I've helped a lot of people get driver's licenses, get driver training, help with driver training. Now I'm getting questions about helping get people with automobile shopping. One of the guys I'm working with has been here since early January. Unfortunately, he still doesn't have a social security number. He still doesn't have employment eligibility form or document. So, just dealing with that, try to work with whoever I can. We've made some progress on social security. I've contacted one of our US senators to try to help work through some of those barriers. Somebody else called me up one day, said, "Hey, Steve, please help me get to California. It's 3:30 in the afternoon, but I need to get there tonight." So anyway, I was able to help with that. And then questions about COVID stimulus. We know that that's kind of up in the air. Are they eligible or not? Worst case is they apply for it, get the money, and have to pay it back. But many people are willing to take that risk. So I probably helped 20 people file for their COVID stimulus. And I also had somebody stay with me for a month. Was supposed to be here for 4 nights, but didn't get the money or whatever the scenario was. So fortunately, I was able to have a visitor for 1 month. So we can go to the next slide. So some of the challenges, when getting started, just really not understanding what am I getting myself into, or that doesn't mean to be negative, but just not knowing, right? So I did see an overview slide, but really didn't understand what volunteers do, didn't really know what all was going to be expected. So initially that was the trips to Partners in Careers, or referred to them by Department of Social and Health Services, and also to Clark ESL. And what I'd recognize, it was, I would take people there, but it was, I'd go back to the same place from the same house the next day. So, obviously room for improvement there. And then also getting involved with things that I wasn't familiar with. I have an internet in my house, but that's it. I'm done with internet. I have a phone service. I'm done with phone service. So all these people are coming and they're needing help getting the internet and they're getting help for phones. I'm not the person to make the best choice for getting phones and internet. Maybe it's a personal problem, but it was things that I was exposed to that I needed to do. And then just not knowing what I'm going to be exposed to, what's next. So those were challenges for me. And then a lack of resources, obviously going from hardly any refugees arriving into the system to 150 supposedly arriving in 3 months, and very limited resources from Lutheran Community Services staff, and then building up the volunteer network and all that kind of stuff. Everybody was significantly busy and understaffed. And then dealing with it, in addition to that, if everything goes well, why that's one thing. But then if you have bottlenecks, it makes it even bigger. So some of the bottlenecks I mentioned, like for the guy that doesn't have a social security card, he doesn't have work eligibility card. People are here for a period of time and they're not getting referred from DSHS to the PIC or Partners in Career. And then just the communication in the community. There's good information that some people have, but not everyone is able to get that might benefit from it. Okay, we go on to successes. So the collaboration with PIC, ESL to be more efficient. So from that, it was great. The people that are working with the refugees, as they show up to Partners in Careers and they show up to Clark College for English as second language, they are wonderful. So, with having a relationship with them, I was able to call them and say, hey, I know you asked me to bring this person tomorrow, but this person is in the same house. Can I bring him tomorrow as well? And they were able to accommodate that. So that was really good. And even if they hadn't been referred yet, they would work on their own without me or anybody else involved to work with the Department of Social and Health Services to be able to make that connection and get that referral so they could do it. So the next big success is jobs. So after applying, people were starting to get interviews. I was providing interview training, the things that were pretty common with people that are getting questions during interviews. Are you going to be dependable? Are you going to be responsible to show up to work and follow directions and be safe? What involvement have you had with safety? What kind of goals do you have? Talk about teamwork. Have you been involved with the team? How do you deal with when you have challenges with other team members? And why do you want this job? Those are very common questions, no matter what industry you're going to be working in. So I was able to just kind of put a question and answer thing together as people were preparing for their interviews. In one case, I was able to even sit next to a guy that was on the phone on an interview, and he'd get asked a question. It was a little different than the way I had it written, but I was able to point to the answer. So a very successful interview, and it was kind of enjoyable to do that. And after those things were going on, it wasn't long, and people were one guy had 4 interview. He applied for 4 jobs and got 4 interview requests, and it was very emotional for both he and I when he called me to state that he got a job offer and accepted the job, and how grateful he was and how happy I was. I felt better about him getting that job than I ever did getting my own job, or when my daughter graduated from college and got her first job. I mean, it just was a great feeling. In addition to that, there's one guy I was working with who's uneducated in his own country. He does not speak English. He's got 3 bullet holes in his upper arm from fighting in the war, and he has a job. How great is that? Who would ever hire somebody like that? Well, there's a manager at the Battleground Walmart who's an immigrant and wants to pay back the experience he had when he came here. So he's hired 11, and I talked to him yesterday, and they're looking to probably hire more once they reconvene and discuss the needs next week. So, those kind of things are just just really good, feel good things and great for our community. And then as we, as very busy getting things done, you have a hard time to do anything else. But as people get jobs and as they're getting more independent, then it's easy to spend some time thinking about, what can we do better? And some of that has been through networking, getting where we're able to manage the process and not have to be so responsive to everything else. And some things that have come of that is, people have a choice, if they're going to get a driver's license or if they're going to get a bicycle, if they're going to get an automobile. There's so many choices. And I've seen, a funny TV commercial where the single guy just gets kicked out of his mother's umbrella and he's having to go shopping by himself. And he shows up at the grocery store and he's looking at the shelf and he doesn't know what to do. I mean, there's not one thing to buy. There's 40 different things to buy, what to do. Well, the same kind of thing exists with some of these services that people are trying to get. So there's a lady named Brenda Gardner at 911 driving school who's volunteering her time for free to help people with getting their knowledge permits at the driving school. With that, the people are going to need wanting to buy cars. And Brenda and I were talking here last week and thinking, boy, it'd be great if there's somebody, with all the used car dealerships on every corner, if there's one that we'd feel confident with, that we'd trust, that wouldn't take advantage of people, that we could refer to people to, it'd be so much easier for them. So a comfort level for the people that are assisting. So we've identified, I sent out a request for 15, 20 people on an email list, and I got a name of somebody, and then Brenda had given me that same name. So anyway, we're focusing in. I had that conversation with them, try to find a preferred vendor for things like that. I had a conversation earlier today. Everybody's going to need car insurance, and I had a conversation today with an insurance guy, and we talked about him coming and educating the Afghans on insurance and talking about options and that kind of thing, and people. So those types of things that we can be more efficient, not everybody fighting for the same things. Those are successes, but things we can build on. Also, Holly Williams and by Clark County, somehow or another, I was engaged with Holly Williams and was able to take a couple guys there, and people donate bicycles, and the staff and volunteers there help to get those bicycles in working order, and doesn't cost the people anything. And I did that with a couple guys, and that's been continuing throughout ever since. Bus service to the bus service of recognizing that 11 guys are going to work at Battleground Walmart, and the bus on Sunday doesn't get them there. They have to get there late and they have to leave early because the service is less. So I called C-Tran to see if they could help. They can't help, but they suggest I talk to the board of directors. Again, I was talking with Holly and she said, oh, here, I'll put you in touch with one of the people on the board of the directors. I'm not sure if that's going anywhere, but the effort is there to try to help get people in our community to help with some of these barriers. And then just spreading the word for assistance, having the opportunity to meet with people. A lot of people haven't heard of the need. So once they hear, there's more volunteers available, there's more resources, somebody might donate a car, those type of things. And then I was referred to a job fair at WorkSource Washington, and I'm involved in taking 10 or 15 people there, and I met with some of the people at WorkSource Washington and recognized that they have some resources there that could really help some of these people. And then that further involved into a meeting with both WorkSource Washington and PIC. And I think beginning on the 18th of April, there's going to be like a weekly hosting for anybody that's looking for work. And I guess it might even expand upon that for other cultural events where people could show up at one location at one time, one day a week, and get assistance to try to make that all more efficient. All right, the next. Continued opportunities, get the word out. I mentioned there's people, I still run across people that haven't heard about it. And I know a lot of times they're willing to help, but they just don't know how to help. So, is there any marketing further that we can do? expect accountability from services. If DSHS is expected to refer people to PIC or Partners in Careers, or excuse me, Partners in Careers or English as a second language within a certain period of time, we need to hope that they do that and expect that they do that. What happens is that many times that happens, but then there's other times where somebody's been here 4 to 6 weeks and they recognizing that somebody's been here a week and they're already getting their Partners in Careers visit, or they're getting their ESL visit. They're getting home with computers. They're getting English as second language training at night on their computers, but yet they've been here 4, 5, 6 weeks and they're not getting it. Then they get a job and then they're off the list. From my understanding, well, we're not, one of the main things is to be accountable for the reason they're doing these things is to be accountable for their money they're getting each month from Department of Social and Health Services. But if they have their job, that's going to end anyway. So, no need to help them with these services anymore. So let's make sure that everybody is able to get these and hold these groups accountable. And then the next is more subject matter experts. So we, I'll try to make it quick. I know we're running short of time, but more subject matter experts. It's great to have somebody that's dealing with phones and dealing with internet set up now. That we're working with a group to get going on the job, the job service with WorkSource Washington and Partners in Career. We have the bicycle help from Clark County. We have driver license help, working on getting automobile help. But anyway, if there's more things like that where people can get involved, such as, I'm working with a U.S. Senator's office for helping with Social Security and or employment eligibility forms. But that person, of course, he has all kinds of people asking for help. And maybe if we had somebody in our own organization that was skilled and having that same contact that he might, it could be more efficient. And then also just what's next for the immigration process, to know what to do, to have experts to help if it's pro bono attorneys or whatever that might be. So at any rate, that type of thing. The next thing is more good neighbor teams. I mentioned that I'm involved in a good neighbor team, but I've helped a lot of other people, single people or others, with items such as helping them with jobs, helping them get the application for their COVID stimulus money, that type of thing. And then all of a sudden they're calling me for all kinds of other requests. And it's because a lot of people still do not have that network of people that they can call on for help. And oftentimes I'm not able to help them because I'm helping somebody else. So I feel there's still a need for good neighbor teams, especially as we have more people coming, more volunteers, again, more people coming. Likely a lot of the people that started, they don't intend to do this indefinitely. So again, I think there'll always be a need to add more. And then potentially an on-demand, on-call resource list. Just real quick, I was at the dentist and my dentist said, hey, does anybody need emergency dental care, right? Well, I said, right now they have a network with Sureway or whatever, Sure. Anyway, the physician place we take people to. I'm sorry, but there is that, but that's a great idea that this is some guy that might be on a list that on a Saturday evening, CMAR, thank you. There might be on a list that needs help on a Saturday evening, and this guy might be somebody to help. Possibly it's somebody that can help with a car breakdown. A very expansive list of potential things that people could help with. And then the last thing, just again, more efficient communication within the community. I know we have boundaries for confidentiality, but there's still a lot of situations where I feel that we're not able to communicate with everybody that would need the information. And we have email lists groups, we have WhatsApp app group sessions, that kind of thing. And maybe we offer it to everybody and getting through the confidentiality challenges. If they don't want to join, they don't have to join, but anybody else that wants to join understands that, they're lacking some confidentiality because they're on a list with others. But whatever we need to do, just more efficient communication so everybody's able to hear. And I know we've made progress. That's it for me. Appreciate it. We'll be ready for more questions, Jenica. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. That was really great information, really good updates. If I could have all the panelists turn on their cameras. Nazifa, you're exempt because I know your camera's not working. And we've had a few questions and then a few that were answered that I still sort of want to call out in case anyone else had the same question. So one question is around in-kind donations. One, where do we take them if we have things to donate? And two, what are the biggest in-kind donation needs right now? So Nikki, you might be the best one to answer that.
Yeah, for in-kind donations, we do have our Amazon wish list that's up and running that you can find, I believe, through our website. And is it here also, Jenica? Did you guys post that? I think I saw.
Yes, we can
Right.
repost that too.
Yeah, right now we're so fortunate that Crossroads Church did a huge restart kit drive. And so we have our storage units are pretty full with things like bedding. And so I do need to go and update that list. We do need car seats. We're circled back to needing more car seats. So that's a definite easy thing I can throw out there. We also we receive furniture donations that are always helpful. Right now we have we had to put a pause on a couple of house move-ins, and so our storage is actually full right now, but that will change and we will need more furniture donations, particularly dressers, small tables like coffee tables, small dining room tables, and things like that are always really helpful. And you can email me if you have those types of things. And we've got a really neat volunteer team led by Ralph Castle, who helps us to collect donated furniture. We can pick it up and he'll let people know exactly what we need from what they have to offer. And so I will forward those requests on to Ralph, or those donations on to Ralph, and he'll contact you.
That is great. Also, Nikki, I think best for you, if someone's wanting to volunteer and get involved, who should they contact?
Yeah, they should contact me as well. And we're going to start transitioning so that they'll also be hearing back from our new team member, Khalid. And the steps for volunteering are filling out an application, and we'll do a background check and get you up and running, figure out exactly where you want to volunteer, and what your interest areas are. I know somebody has a question about qualifications needed for teaching ESL. Our ESL tutoring is informal. It's more conversational. We have a couple different models. One of them that's really neat right now is we have 10 women living in an apartment complex with their families, but they're doing a women's group that rotates every Tuesday and Friday, and it's hosted at a different apartment within the complex each time, and tea is served, and it's become a really neat time of just gathering and people getting to know each other while they're learning English. And people have made really great progress with their language skills just from gathering a couple times a week with a few of our tutors, who most of whom don't have much experience, but they're just working through a curriculum and a picture dictionary and just having conversation. And so no need to have formal training. Our program is pretty informal, and we can support with curriculum, and you can shadow some of our groups that are going on. But we definitely have had some interest and requests from some of the men who are unable to engage with the Clark classes because of work schedules or things like that. And so they are requesting that. And just because of some of the gender dynamics, we're trying to build a team of male ESL tutors who can engage with them. So that's out there as well. That's a need as well.
Thank you. Well, it looks like we're just past 1 o'clock now, and we want to keep this just to the lunch hour and let you all go back to your days. But if we didn't get to a question that you have that you want answered, feel free to reach out to us and we will do our best to get back to you. Thank you so much for being with us today. And we have 4 more Lunch and Learn webinars in this series, so please do check those out and register for any and all that interests you. Next week, we'll be talking with Portland staff about some more of the programs that happen there. There's another Vancouver focused one coming up as well, so please join us for those and enjoy the rest of your day.